All right, hello students. We're going to move on with example number 3. We're going to talk about the quadrants of a coordinate plane. Now this is kind of another way of describing where points are located. Um, and if we look at this kind of picture or this coordinate plane here, first let's go ahead and label. This is our x-axis, excuse me. This is our y-axis. If we look at these lines, it kind of cuts this picture or this coordinate plane into kind of 4 equal parts here. And if we look at the word quadrant, the root word of it, quad, means 4. This is broken up into 4 pieces. And so if we look at this kind of top section up here, this is kind of what you mostly deal with because this is a positive x and a positive y. This is known as quadrant 1. Well, most people label it with just simply a Q, which I'm okay with. But what's important is we don't put a numerical 1. We actually use this thing called a Roman numeral 1, which looks like an I. This whole section up here is known as quadrant 1. If we kind of move to quadrant 2, now most people think quadrant 2 would be down here. We're actually going to rotate in this kind of direction. If we come to the left here, this is known as quadrant 2. Once again, we label the quadrant with a Q. And instead of just putting the number 2, you must put the Roman numeral 2. And yes, this is important. We need to make sure we are labeling these things appropriately. So quadrant 2 has kind of the double I. Look, if we continue to go around the coordinate plane here, we come down here to the bottom. This right here is quadrant 3. So once again, Q and then triple I. Let's extend that out a little bit. And the last one, we come over here. This is quadrant number 4. So this is Q, and the Roman numeral for 4 is actually IV. It's not 4 letters because V is the Roman numeral for 5. We're taking 1 away from 5, and that's how they get the 4. Sometimes can be a little bit confusing, but there you go. Well, if we're looking at this, remember we have our x and y coordinates. If we look at these different quadrants, they have kind of similar characteristics when they're dealing with their x and y's. Remember, I'm just going to label this up here. The x coordinate comes first, the y coordinate comes second to kind of remind us. And as we go through this, we have similar characteristics. So if we look at the x and y, or what types of x and y's we see, if we look here, if this is the origin, remember in the middle, everything to the right of it is a positive x. And everything above the origin is a positive y. So in quadrant 1, x is positive and y is positive. We continue to work our way around here. In quadrant 3, once again, if here's the origin, remember x goes side to side, the first to the left of the origin would be a negative number. So x's are negative up here in quadrant 2. And once again, it's still above the origin, so the y's are still positive. We continue to work our way around. We have quadrant 3 over here. Well, quadrant 3 is still to the left of the origin, so x is still negative. And now it's actually below the origin, so therefore y is also negative. And if we continue kind of to our last one, if we kind of look at where this is located, where quadrant 4 is located with respect to the origin, it's to the right of the origin. That's what would make x positive. And it's below the origin, so that would make y negative. All right, so that's kind of just a quick discussion about the different quadrants and kind of what their x and y values kind of will look like. Quadrant 1, Quadrant 2, Quadrant 3, and Quadrant 4. And yes, they must be labeled Roman numerals. And of course, how their x and y values should look. All right, so that should get you started with, or get you going for your assignment for today. Just go ahead and stop the video and go ahead and get started.